Hello, hello! How is everybody doing tonight? I hope everyone's having a fantastic Tuesday and maybe Wednesday, depending on where you're listening from, because I know in Australia it's Wednesday morning, I'm pretty sure, maybe 10 a.m. if I'm right, my calculations. Hope everyone's doing good. Tonight is a big topic. Tonight we're going to talk about knee issues and a little bit about how you can do some things to change while you're on the bike, and also some things to think about and do while you're off the bike. And this is an issue that happens and hurts and affects a lot of y'all. I had a conversation with a lady this morning. I'm doing and reaching out to some of you guys, and if you guys want me to reach out to you, just let me know. But I'm starting to do some more one-on-one personalized programs. I've done several more kind of in the shadows, I guess you would say. But I'm doing more of those because I found that it's helpful for some of y'all to get a more personalized program for you guys to be stronger on the bike instead of just having the team, which is that membership, but also doing more personalized programming. So if you want and you want me to reach out to you to see if you might be applicable for this, let me know. But I was talking to this lady this morning and she was talking about how she had some knee issues. And I'd also talked to a couple other last week about how they had some knee issues. The lady that I talked to this morning, I actually told her to go to a PT, to go see somebody, because I wasn't appropriate for her to be training. She needed somebody else to look at her, and she needed some other things, but she had no clue, no idea, and this is a lack of us communicating how knees work as healthcare workers and as trainers. That needs to be, we need to shed some light here, because there's a lot of things that you can do for your knees, for biking, to help you if you're a runner, for a lot of things, but it's not explained well. So this kind of gets into my little bit of my heart of why I like to do this, is because I want you guys to have knowledge of how your body works to make it where you can have more fun out there on the trails, to where you can strengthen and get better and you understand why you're doing what you're doing. And so that's part of the reason why I started this group. So we're going to get into it of on the bike stuff and off the bike stuff. We're going to do the on the bike stuff first, and then we're going to do the off the bike stuff. If you're here, I'd love to know that you're live, and if you are catching the replay, I'd love to know that you stopped by. Also, I'd love to know, and I think there's a lot of other ladies that would feel very comfortable if you just said if you had knee pain. Do you have knee pain? Do you have knee discomfort that happens? Does it stop you from enjoying some of your riding? Does it hold you back? How does it affect you? I'd love to know, and for you to share some of these things, because there's several other ladies that may feel alone. And that's all of what this group is about, is not feeling alone, bringing the community back into it. So for on the bike and how your body functions, how your knees function, we're going to get into some of those base things first. So knees function as a hinge. I'm going to bring this over so you can see my lovely legs. So knees function as a hinge. And so they just go back and forth. Well, how do you think a hinge works on a door? If you have an issue on your door hinge, what are you going to look at? Are you going to look directly at that hinge and just say, I need to replace that hinge? That hinge is done. Not typically. Typically, you're going to look at the frame, you're going to look how it's attached, you're going to look at the other attachments of the other hinges. You're going to see if that door is stable. You're going to see if that door is swinging as it should. What's kinking your hinge? And a lot of times when we think of knees, most people just think here. Well, if I just think here, then that is just looking at my hinge on my door and not looking at any of the rest of it, right? It gets just looking at that part. And so if we're only looking at our hinge, we're missing a lot of how it actually is controlled. And so as we look at our knee, as we look at our feet, we think, and as you look at anything, what's your base of support? What's your contact point? And where do you get stability from? Where do you get control from? At least that's how I look at it, because I'm an engineer. Engineer turned PT, turned trainer. And so I look at the feet, And if your feet aren't stable, if you're having issues with your feet collapsing in, if they're not strong for you, you don't have that good solid base, then what's going to happen is that your arch will fall in a lot of times. And as you see, as I bring my arch in, it points my knee in. Well, as my knee points inward, and then I'm trying to rotate and move, it doesn't function as a hinge as well. It kind of kinks my hinge. It doesn't flow quite as well with that. So as we look at that base of support, as my foot drops in, as I lose my arch, my knee can drop in. So having a good base of support, potentially getting an arch support, or even strengthening your foot can be a really important thing for you. Now, we also look at where you're getting your control and your stability of your knee from. So if I go like this, or I go like that, is that a knee movement? Not really. My knee hinge is pretty much staying still. It's a hip movement, external and internal rotation. You know what does those movements? My butt. My butt does it. And so if my butt is controlling the in and out, there's some other muscles that come in with that too, but mainly my butt. If my butt is controlling it, my butt is in charge of where my knee is in space, and then my core is what's in charge of my butt actually working, then we look back at those two things as being able of working out those things to help support what's happening at the knee. If we're coming and going in with our knee, it usually doesn't like it. It likes it much better if we're going out a little bit, or even better yet, if we're just straight on with our foot. And so then it can function as a hinge without getting kinked. Now, we have some other stuff going on actually in this knee joint. And most people have no clue why they have a kneecap. Your kneecap is there, and you're like, Liz, why haven't you talked about the quad or the hamstring yet? Those actually attach to the knee. We're getting there. We're getting there. I promise. And so why you have a kneecap is that it's used as a fulcrum. You're like, fulcrum? What the hell, Liz? And so when I say fulcrum, if I'm going to pull something, then I need to have it go around that object, and so I can get a good angle of pull. If I'm just going to come straight down off of something, and I try to pull that, I'm just going to be pulling up with it more so. And so I need to have it go out just a little bit with its angle of pull so I can actually pull the other part out. And so how my quad functions is that my quad muscle comes down, attaches to the top of the kneecap right through here, and then the bottom of the kneecap connects to the leg via another tendon. And that tendon is then what's able for you to pull your knee straight or push your knee straight, as in you're on the pedals and you're pedaling forward. And so if you were just using mainly your quad while you're climbing, while you're exercising, while you're doing pretty much everything, then what you're doing is you're shoving that kneecap into the knee joint. It's supposed to do that to a certain extent, but it's also supposed to have other forces upon it that even out that pressure. AKA, you don't need just your quad doing everything for you. You need your glutes, you need your hamstrings, you need your hip flexors, you need your core, you need your butt, like all of these things. Also your calf, I don't know if you knew that, your gastroc attaches to the back of your knee. All of those things play a role into helping your knee, your kneecap, not just be the main thing that controls your knee. We need all these other muscle groups. Is this blowing anybody's brain about what we're talking about, what's going on? And so if you have front of the knee issues, a lot of times it's that you need to not use your quad as much for everything. Interjoint issues, then you probably need to go see a PT. You need to seek out more care. And same thing with some of the front of the knee issues. Seeking more care, understanding what you need to be working on, how to fire these other muscles together is what you need. Sometimes you just need more strengthening. That's just a minor complaint. You need your core stronger. You need your glutes stronger. You need your hamstrings stronger. You need to work on balance control, activation of these things. And as ladies, we tend to put more force and pressure on our knees as a whole. They did a study that talked about jumping mechanics, and as you jump off something. So if I came up here and I jumped off, how I land. And guys land more using their hips as their shock absorber. And then women use more knees as their shock absorber. And absorber. Oh my gosh, I can't say that word. And so using your hips as your shock absorber is much better and puts less stress, obviously, on your knees versus just using more quads and going knees. They have some hypotheses of why we do this as ladies, and one of them is that we're just a little bit wider. That the angle between our knees and our hips, it just pins us more towards using our quads, whether it's because of needing to have core strength, whether it's needing glute strength, any of those things, that we're just more biased to use our quads. And so making sure that you get those glutes going, making sure that you have those working for you is key. Does this all make sense? I'll come back in and look at this afterwards because I'm definitely not getting any comments here. But does this make sense of how these things all work together? Your base of support with your foot, the muscles coming together, not just using your quads. And so whenever we overlay this to the bike, it's putting those principles into play. Why does seat height matter so much? It's because whether or not you're just using your quads or not, and putting them putting your knee at a compromising angle so you'll just use your quads for that main thing. Why does climbing more so matter to us? Why do we tend to get more knee issues when we're climbing and that repetitive motion, downhill position? All of these things correlate back over to, do you know how to control your knee in space, aka use your glute and your core, glutes plural, and your core? Do you have a good base of support? Do you know how to control it? Do you know what's happening to your knees as you're doing this? Are you overusing your quads? And so everything that we're going to talk about from here forward is all about that exact thing, and it's just the overlay to the bike. Does this make sense? So now that we're getting more to bike stuff, and we understand a little bit more that our hips control where our knee is in space, now when we're on the bike, and I'm going to pedal like this, obviously my saddle is down, and so if I'm going to pedal here, I'm going to really have to use that fulcrum to extend my knee to get it straighter. I'm going to be a whole lot less likely to integrate using my glutes and my hamstrings to help me, and some of my calf to help me. And so having your seat at an optimal position, and it's not that there's a perfect angle to have, because everybody is a little bit different. And so you want it to be where you have a little bit of a knee bend, your foot can be nice and flat, and that is whenever you're in more of your on the bike position. And so as you saw, my knee is straighter when I lean back versus when I lean forward. And if you're having serious issues and don't understand a lot of stuff, a bike fit can be useful, but on mountain bikes we move around a whole lot more. And so it's not as, yes, you need this always for mountain biking as you do for road biking and gravel biking. It's not that it's wrong. It's not that you don't need it. It's just you move around a whole lot more. And so it wouldn't be my first go-to. I would go to strengthening. I would go to knee messing around and changing things on my bike before I went in for an exact fit that's going to cost me $400, $500. If you have a bike shop that you bought your bike from, go for it. Go in there, check it out, have them look at you, but make sure you're in more of your position when you're looking at stuff. Okay, so that's why your saddle height matters a whole lot. Now, also, so does moving your saddle forward or back. And so if you move your saddle more forward, then my knee is going to be more in front of my toe. And that's going to make me also more quad driven. And so that's another thing that makes you activate your quad more than the rest of everything else. Another thing that does that is pushing more with your toes. And so if your foot is more ball of the foot on there versus midfoot on there, then you will use more quads when the ball of your foot is on there versus when your midfoot is on there. If you have cleats, that's why they say push your cleat on your actual shoes back. And so you're more midfoot versus just forefoot. And so you can integrate more glutes and hamstrings and other muscles. Great thing about flats is that you can bias yourself even more this way. And so sometimes if I want to hit more of my hamstrings, if I want to hit more of my glutes while I'm on the bike, I'll put my foot more forward and I'll really dig and really pull back that pedal to get those other muscle groups going. And so I'm not just using quads, I'm actually biasing more to the back of my leg to help me with this. And so changing your foot on the pedal based on what you're doing can help a ton. Okay, so we've covered seat height, saddle position, forward and back, and how if it's forward, it's going to make you more quad dominant typically. And then how you can move your foot on the pedal. Now, another thing is that some people just think about just pressing down. And if you're just going to press down, this is obviously just a knee movement. Versus if I think about kind of digging, some of the instructors say like wiping dog poop off your foot. Or I also like to think about it like you're doing a step up. And so if I'm going to step up and forward, that means that I have to bring my foot backwards or me forwards. And so sometimes that's a nice key cue for us to use. But it's basically a way to differently think about what's happening down there, but not just, oh my gosh, what am I doing with my knees and my foot? And it's external cues. And so wiping that dog foot off, that dog poop off, other things like that. So now that we have covered a little bit of the foot position, now let's talk about being out of the saddle. And so some of you guys don't have dropper posts and you have the saddle in your way. Sometimes you like to squeeze the saddle. This, obviously, if you look at it whenever I'm squeezing, I'm going to be pushing my knee in. And that is not helpful for how my hinge works. And this is when we're going downhill and can sometimes get into our toilet bowl position where we squat, we pull back, and we get taken along for the ride. Instead of getting your chest forward over top of your bike, over top of your front handlebars, and having a more straight knee position. And so then you can be your shock absorber and you can float forward and back over top of your bike. But if I'm squeezing, then and then I squat. Now I'm using my quads, I'm using the fulcrum. It actually doesn't feel good for my knee just doing that. Then I'm putting pressure and kinking my hinge by doing those other things. And so making sure that you give your bike good space underneath. If you had laser pointers going off your knees, they need to be pointed forward. And you don't need extreme bends. You want to be able to get into that position and go through different movements based on what terrain is happening in front of you, based on what you're going through. But you need to be ready for it. And that's why they call that a lot of times the ready position. It's that you have a slight knee bend. It's not extreme, but you're ready in case you need to bend them more. Not sitting back doing a big knee bend and holding basically a wall squat with both of your knees, both of your legs. Because that is hard. And that's tiring. And nobody needs that. And so making sure you're out of the saddle and doing things that you're supporting your knees. You should feel your glutes when you're going downhill. If you only feel your quads, then we need to change things up. We need to work on your strength of actually being able to hold that position. This is a tiring position if you are not used to the core strength and the glute strength that is required for it. People think about just getting strong on the bike as being climbing. Like a lot of the ladies on the team and the ones that I've worked with more personally, like they feel a difference in their descending. and how much that changes based on like core strength and glute strength, being able to hold themselves, and also making their knee issues better, feeling stronger. Like all those things are so important for it. Okay, so don't squat with it. No toilet bowl position, like you're holding that seat position. And then no gripping your saddle. Making sure that whenever you're coming in, I had somebody tell me the other day at the PT clinic that they were told to hold their knees in while they were climbing. That's the first time I had heard that. I was like, wow, really? I think they had heard it from some road bikers about maybe like aerodynamics. I don't know for sure. He couldn't quite remember where he heard it from, but not good. Don't pin in to get close to the bar whenever you're pedaling around. Okay. Hope this makes sense on the bike stuff. So foot position climbing, don't just press down with your knee, and then making sure that you are moving your body where you can access and integrate these other muscles. It's the key component of it, is that you're supporting your knees. You're not just using your quads like the majority of us out there. Okay? So other things off the bike, we kind of touched into them a little bit. And they are, I'm not going to go through the main exercises, but there are like main glute exercises that you can focus on, like the clamshell, simple bridge, making sure that you're using like core with glutes and understanding that control, making sure that you are able to do like a deadlift type movement, a hip hinge, because that's that position that you are whenever you're off the saddle. Understanding that, knowing what to do with it. Also core. If your core isn't working for you, if you're not strong through here, then you're not going to get your glutes to work as well. You just won't. If you're having a specific glute activation problem, then you won't get them to work as well. You need to focus in on that core. And that's how you get that glute to fire a whole lot better. So making sure you got that. And then also going back and reiterating that point that I made at the very beginning, if you need a little bit of an arch support, or you might need to strengthen your feet, then that's whenever you might throw an arch support to your shoe to help it feel a whole lot better, to give those knees that control so they don't dive in when you lose that support. Hope this makes sense for you guys. Let me know if it does. Just say "makes sense" in the comments, so when I look back, I know I'm just not rambling for you. So also, if you have issues, all of these things can be supported. If you have a serious knee issue, then go see a PT, go see a doctor, go get some help. Don't just suffer. And if they say that you need to stop doing something, try some other different options. A lot of times it's not that you need to stop. You can modify, you can change, but it's not, I don't like you to stop doing something unless you absolutely have to. And so listen to what they're saying and get second opinions if you need to, or if the person that you go to originally doesn't seem to be helping you, then go to another person, okay? Never stop seeking help for it. Also, if you think that you might just need more of a program to help you activate, to help you understand some of these strengthening things, you need to get a little bit stronger, then let me know. Just say reach out, or say message me and I'll reach out to you. I'll send you a message and we'll just we'll just talk and see what you got going on, and I can help you know maybe you do need to go see a PT. You need to go get help, or maybe you're ready for a strengthening program that supports everything that's going on to help you ride and have more fun on the bike. Because that's what's super important, is being able to control, being able to have these things that support, and understanding a little bit more of how things work and mechanics. Because a lot of what we do on the bike is repetitive, but we can move and change things a whole lot to focus in, to use different muscle groups, to get that dog poop off and pedal through, make that step up instead of just a knee straightening. Okay? And those are a lot of those changes that you can make and can really change your trajectory when it comes to what knee issues you're having. But definitely get help if you need it, and try some of these changes on the bike. Let me know if you need some strengthening stuff. Those exercises are like deadlifts, different core exercises, clamshell, the bridge. Those guys all super target those areas and get you stronger. I hope this was helpful. If it was, let me know. Just say helpful below in the comments. And I hope you guys have a fantastic Tuesday night. All right, guys, have a good week.